Delray Richardson, man. Happy to have you back on the platform, my man.
What's happening, man? Art of the dialogue. Thanks for having me again, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, the last time I had you on the platform, man, we did numbers. Some of the content went viral. So.
Yeah, shout out to the Source Magazine and Hot Hip Hop for having, pick that up. I think they kind of really catching on to the truth and the facts that we talking about in reference to the Faith Evans situation. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So a few weeks ago, man, Drew Down, he did an interview with Yuckmouth, and when he did his interview with Yuckmouth, he pretty much told a story. He went into detail and he told a story about how he was at Tupac hotel room and Faith Evans, she knocked on the door and he let her in. And he also said that she was trying to disguise herself. She had like a black hoodie on or something like that. So yeah, man, how you feel about that, my man?
Well, first and foremost, it only lends credibility to what we were saying, as if Tupac saying it wasn't enough. But when the crazy part is when she was talking about when her and Tupac went back to the hotel in her book, it only sheds more light on it that, she even lied more than I said she did once Drew Down basically spoke out about how the situation came about when she came to the hotel. Because in the book, she basically said that after they recorded the Wonder Why They Call You Bitch, that Tupac had told her that the money was at the hotel and his manager would be bringing it over to the hotel, and that was the reason why she went back to the hotel. But from what Drew Down basically said, he basically said that Tupac, him, and Big Syke was already at the hotel. And Drew Down said basically he had some girls there already, and said, and then Tupac said, oh, no, don't worry about it, because I got somebody coming, and you know what I mean? Well, wait till she get here, and you gonna trip out, who it is that's coming. And, Drew Down was like, yo, who? So, when she knocked on the door, and Tupac was like, yo, go get the door, you know what I mean? And he went and got the door, and like I say, he said he didn't even recognize her when she came in until she kind of walked in, and was like, who was that? And then she spoke to Drew Down, was like, hey, what's up, Drew? And Drew Down was like, who was that? It's like Faith. He was like, oh, you know what I mean? Because he had just seen her at some award show or something like that. And so, like I said, that only just, proves that she only used Tupac in her book to help sell her book. Most people don't understand that Tupac was used as the catalyst to sell her book. When they brought the book out, which I come to find out, they used those quotes from the book to basically get people's attention. And like I said, she basically lied. And like I said, once again, when you think about it, Drew Down coming out and saying that, it just proves it a little bit more. But what I want to say that I didn't say before was, most people don't understand. When I came out, I didn't come out to try to disrespect. I came out to correct the historical narrative that there was something that Tupac did to Faith Evans that was wrong. And that's not the truth. And I want you to understand this. Like I said, and I'm going to go through it so that you really, really clearly understand it. And I'm not going to really speak on this again. So like I said, on the 18th of October, 1995, we were at the Hollywood Athletic Club. Faith went back to the hotel for the first time that night after the Hollywood Athletic Club. She went back to Tupac's hotel at the Peninsula Hotel. The next day, they went to the studio to record You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch. That was October 19th, 1995, right? After the studio, now we know from what Drew Down basically said, she claimed that they went back to the studio together. That didn't happen. So that's more clarification on it. We also know that the $25,000 that she had claimed that he had promised her was basically a myth, because we know now that she came back separately from that time. But what I want you to understand is this. Faith Evans basically said that the night of the 19th, and it would happen on October 19th, that Tupac kicked her out of his hotel room. He said a whole bunch of salacious, disrespectful stuff to her. And he basically disrespected her in front of nobody at that particular time, as we knew of, because it was him and her in the hotel, and which we know now it was him and her in the hotel doing what they did. And so after that, we go to 26 days out. And in between that time, Faith Evans had been in contact with Tupac 5 times. And what I want you to understand is, if everything that she said that happened on the night of the 19th was true, she wouldn't have been in contact with Tupac 5 times after that. We've seen the pictures already, but check. So on the 13th of November, 1995, prior to the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party the day before, Faith Evans basically said in her book that on this day, she got a page out of the blue from Tupac. You got a page, and she called him back. Now, if the $25,000 that you said that he owed you were true, are you picking up, returning any kind of page? He kicked you out of his hotel room. He disrespected you. He called you all kinds of B words and so on and so forth because you didn't do the sexual things that you said that he wanted you to do. Or you didn't want to, participate in those activities. So now, the first thing, if you return the page that you're going to do, what is the first question that you're going to ask Tupac if you return the page? What would you ask? I'm just going to ask you, what would you ask about?
Yeah, man. I mean, what I would ask is, where's my money?
Absolutely. And the fact on this first time, after she said all of those things happened on the 19th, back at the hotel and him kicking her out and doing all of this, she called him back from the page after he paged her, and basically they had a small conversation, and she said Tupac asked her, so what you out here working on? The question I had to ask, well, how would Tupac even know you was in California?
Right.
I mean, just think about it now. Like, out of the blue, you get a page from Tupac, and he calls you, and in your book, you said that he asked you what you working on.
Right.
How would he know you in town?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, man.
Absolutely. So that's the first time now. And so, once again, the fact that you called him back after he paged you is, it lets you know that, truthfully, none of the stuff that she said happened in her book as far as Tupac disrespect. It didn't happen. But I'm going to go on so that you really understand. So, the next night, the night of the actual Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party, once again, going to the party, she said her cell phone rings. And it's Tupac again. So she pick up the phone, and she says Tupac asks her, so Faith, where you at? And she's like, I'm here. He's like, I'm here too, at the party. And mind you, I didn't say this, but Whitney Houston had invited Tupac to the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party. Most people don't really know that. So she's like, I'm here too. Where you at? She's like, I'm in the limo. So now she invites Tupac to get in the limo. And not only that, so they sitting back in the limo. She said they smoking weed, and she then introduces Tupac to her friend Nikki from Brownstone. I want you to understand something. And you can look back on this from the previous video that we did. There would be no need to introduce Nikki to Tupac because Tupac already met Nikki at the Hollywood Athletic Club. She's in the picture with her, Tretch, my man Roland Work, and that picture, that infamous picture from the Hollywood Athletic Club. So why would she then in turn reintroduce Tupac to Nikki when he already knew who Nikki was? They were there that night. They took pictures together. That's another lie that lets you know that it really wasn't true what she was saying. Okay, cool. So now we in the limo kicking it, you know what I mean? And like I said, you got to understand, she said that all of this stuff that Tupac, all of this salacious and disrespectful stuff that he did on that night in particular, right? Okay, now we ready to walk the red carpet. Not alone, but we walk the red carpet together, right? So her, Nikki, Tupac, They all walked the red carpet together. And she said she came up with this thought of wanting to tell the onlookers and the paparazzi that she didn't actually verbalize it. She verbalized it in the book. She said that I wanted to tell everybody that that I wasn't with Tupac and that he just jumped in my car and I just met him yesterday. This is actually what she said. So you mean that you met him on the 13th and not 27 days earlier? On the 18th of October? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So once again, this is the second time, right, that she's been in touch with Tupac. So after that, they get into the party. Where does Tupac sit? He don't sit at his own table. He don't sit at Whitney Houston's table. He sit at Faith Evans' table. And she makes an observation of Tupac. This is 26 days after you've been with this guy and you said that he did all of this stuff to you. But the only thing that really happened is y'all were together. And she really liked Tupac. You can't deny it. You see the pictures. Tupac sat at her table and they kicked it. And it was all good. So I need you to understand, I need the world to understand. This is not about what Tupac, what Faith Evans basically said. This is about the truth and about the facts of the matter. And like I said, I wish to just put this to rest from that perspective. And another thing she said, Tupac came and picked me up after that party, 2-3 days after the Waited to Exhale soundtrack police party in his black Benz. No, he didn't. Tupac didn't come pick her up. Why would he come pick her up? You already been to the hotel. You was at the hotel 27 days ago, right? And it was supposed to be the next day. So she's telling this story, once again, like I said, based on the pictures that everybody's seen, that it was all good. There was never nothing. She created the whole story to help sell her book. And so that you know that, everybody needs to know these facts, man.
Yeah, man. Danny Boy. You know, Danny Boy also did an interview, and you know, he made a comment saying that Faith Evans spent $40K on Tupac, and she spent $40K on clothes for Tupac. How you feel about that?
Well, there's no need to feel anything about it because it's not true. No, because how would, once again, we go back to the $25,000, right? So I'm a guy who likes math. And so what that would be basically saying, and I don't know where Danny Boy got his information as far as the money's concerned, but I do know where the story came from. And it was from a January 14th, 1996 article in the New York Times magazine entitled, Does a Sugar Bear Bite? And it was over a 2-month period that the reporter actually did the interview. And in the interview, once he was interviewing, they were going to the Riddick Bowe fight. And Tupac had on some jeans and a shirt. And Suge Knight basically said that Tupac, that Faith had bought those clothes that Tupac had on along with some other stuff. You know what I mean? So, and it was, you know, a couple other things from that perspective. And no, she didn't spend that much money or any money at all from my understanding. And the fact of the matter is, so if Tupac allegedly was going to pay Faith $25,000, which is not true, and we know that now, why would she then spend 50? So you gonna spend $50,000 or $40,000 on a guy who you just met the night before and take him shopping to make 25? The math just doesn't add up. And furthermore, George Price, the Death Row publicist, on the tape with Chuck Phillips, you can basically hear him say that Tupac, a few days before that studio session, had been to the Beverly Center, basically shopping and buying clothes and things of that nature. So, like I said, I'm a guy who likes math, and like I said, I'm not here to lie on Faith Evans or say anything that's not true, but that's simply not true. You don't spend $40,000 to make 25. That's hustling backwards.
Right. Yeah, man. When I seen the interview, you know, him telling that story, it really didn't make sense because if I'm not mistaken, Faith Evans, she even said in numerous interviews that the reason why she loved, the tour with Bad Boy and Biggie and Puffy was to come to LA to make money.
Absolutely.
So,
And furthermore, like I said, there was also a rumor that she had pawned her ring. Like I said, I know that the night we were at the Hollywood Athletic Club, as I pointed out before, that she didn't have her ring on. And for whatever reason that was her own personal reason. But like I said, she couldn't have. And so my thing is, well, where would they go shopping?
I mean, you can't think of nowhere.
Yeah, you can't go to the Beverly Center. And that's where Tupac was shopping at when the reporter from the Newsweek magazine had spotted him a few days before that studio session with him and Faith had actually happened. So he had been shopping. And like I said, this is during an interview when Suge Knight says it. Tupac didn't say this. You got to remember, Tupac didn't say it out his mouth. Suge had said it to the reporter that the wife of a famous rapper, the wife of a famous rapper bought these clothes for Tupac. And the reporter asked who, and he was saying Faith Evans, and so on and so forth. And by that time, like I said, this is January 14th, 1996. By that time, Faith had already been on the radio denying that she had been with Tupac. So that goes into what I was trying to explain to you, that Faith Evans, it had got out that night when we were at the Hollywood Athletic Club that she was kicking it with Tupac. And remember this, Art, and I want you to know this. Nobody ever knew what Biggie meant in Hypnotize until I exposed it. Because I was there. There I squeezed 3 at your cherry M3, bang every MC easily, busily. And that was a shot at Faith because that's what she was driving that night when they were at the Hollywood Athletic Club when she pulled up. Like I told you, it got back to Biggie that same night. And so, like I said, when you deal with the facts of what Drew Down said, her coming into the hotel, with the Grim Reaper hoodie on, trying to disguise herself and being incognito and things like that, it just doesn't bode well for her book. Once again, I think the truth, once again, is always sufficient, man. Because you never know the people that were there, who was with Tupac, who knew Tupac. And like I said, it basically, it's come to light now that it was all a lie, basically, to sell her book.
Yeah, man. To go back to that interview by Danny Boy, yeah, man. That didn't really make sense to me, man. I mean, if you going to LA to make money, why would you spend $40K on Tupac?
Yeah. The math, like I said, once again, I'm a fan of math, man, and the math just doesn't add up when you think about that. And I can understand, why people would try to put a number on that, or try to say that happened. And like I said, they only had known each other for 2 days, and they met on a humble. It wasn't planned like they were going to meet. They met that night on a humble. It wasn't like, they had been talking and so on and so forth, that night. So basically, in one day, it not even had been with her, right, before, we going to the mall. You know what? I'm going to take you on the shopping spree and I'm going to spend $40K on you or $50,000 on you. This is before we even go to the studio to actually record the song, according to that video that you're talking about. I got a chance to see that. And so, yeah, I don't, like I said, so I don't know why, what would make Danny Boy think that she spent that kind of money. And he said that Tupac had a Louis Vuitton chest or something like that, bags or something like that. And from what Suge had said, it was just a shirt and some jeans and a suit and some other stuff, like I said. And that's from the January 14th, 1996 article, Does a Sugar Bear Bite? You can look it up.
Fat Joe, man, Faith Evans, man, she also made a comment on, the Fat Joe show or whatever, the little show he got on IG or whatever, Absolutely. IG Live. And she said that the picture she took with Tupac was a setup. How you feel about that, my man?
Well, like I said, once again, no feelings involved, just facts. You know what I mean? And when we deal with this, like I said, my friend, rest in peace, may rest in peace, Roland Wirt, was the promoter. Now you got to understand, every Wednesday night, the Hollywood Athletic would go on. He would always have a photographer there to take pictures with himself with various celebrities, because he would then take that and use that to promote his club night. You know what I mean? So that would be also not true. And I can see why she would say that now, based on the fact that, myself, Drew Down, Mac Mall, and everybody who was there to witness what they witnessed have spoken out now. So like I said, that would be untrue, because before that, well, they would have to have known that Faith was going to be there, and the photographer was already there, because the guy or girl, because he would switch off, was there every week. You know what I mean? This was a spot that I frequent every week, and he always had photographers there. And I'm sure that there's more pictures from that night with other people, because there were other celebrities there that night too. So that also would be not true. And I can, like I say, that's a Monday morning move. If you want to like go back and say, well, they set me up. Like, how? Set you up how? To have your ring not on too, and all of the other things that transpired that night. You know what I mean? Like you going back to the hotel too? They set that up too. You know what I mean? So, once again, like I said, it is what it is, man. And like I said, this wasn't about Tupac and Faith having sex. This was about her feeble attempt to try to assassinate his character and who he was, and basically piggyback off of the case in New York and the sentiment that people felt about that case in New York, and what had happened and what they had said that Tupac had did, which once again he actually didn't do, and it came to light, like I said, once again, involving that. So she was basically trying to piggyback off that sentiment. Oh, he was known to do this, so if I said that he did this in the book, people will believe it. You know what I mean? So that's basically what she was trying to do, and it didn't work.
Speaking of Mac Mall, man, he made a comment about seeing Tupac and Faith at the club or whatever. I forgot exactly the words, exactly what he said, in regards to that, incident or whatever. But he did say that he's seen Tupac and Faith at the club. And I know you remember what he said. So how you feel about him making them comments?
Well, once again, Mac Mall is a guy who, he's a Bay Area legend. You know what I mean? Drew Down, Bay Area legend. These guys, their reputation is solid. So, they ain't coming out and just speaking on some things. But basically what he said is that they went to the Century Club one night, and they went up to the VIP area. And when they went up in there, they seen Faith, sitting in the corner. And Pop was like, oh, hold on. No, we ain't gonna be over here. We ain't really trying to, be here. And he said that he noticed that Faith gave a look. She had a look on her face of like somebody that you dealt with, and like she kind of like upset that you might not be dealing with her no more, like you acting funny or whatever. So basically he made an observation, and this is someone who I don't know if he knew at the time or Pac explained to him at the time when they walked up in there. But yeah, he basically confirmed, that it was what it was. Like I said, he had been through situations like that with females. When you deal with females and you've been with them and you really, it was like a one-time move or whatever, and you really don't want to deal with them no more. So that's basically what he said. So, like I said, once again, and not even that. Once again, you just deal with the fact that it's crazy, man, that people can, whether it was Vlad TV she went on, Drink Champs, MTV, all of these other media outlets let her get on there and gave her a platform to be able to tell this story when the truth was simply available right there in their face. And like I said, you can't deny that and say, well, hey, you know what? I guess I just want the interview. I don't really want to know the truth. I just want to hear what she has to say, And like I said, because when she was on Vlad, it was like, I was like, wow, he really didn't ask any hard questions. You know what I mean? And so that was surprising to me. And it seems like everybody just, let her speak what she wants to speak. And like I say, there's simple questions. There's one question that you can ask Faith Evans when she ever does an interview ever again. And you can ask her, so did you see Tupac 26 days after y'all were at the studio at the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party? And it's simple. Did you see him 26 days after.
Yeah, man, she be doing all these interviews, man, and nobody never challenged anything she says, man. She just be on all these platforms just saying anything, man.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. So that's the question that you can ask her. Did you see Tupac 26 days after y'all went in the studio? Did he sit at your table, right? And you recorded Wonder Why You Call You Bitch on the 19th, correct? That's when that happened, right? So in your book, you said y'all recorded it afterwards. So when did you record the song? Let's get down to the facts. You know what I mean? Because something's not right. We have an interview right here, you know, and we have the timeline. It just doesn't equal up. So now you have to stand up and you have to be accounted and be honest about what you're saying. It's just that simple. And like I said, I really, you know, I really don't like talking about it. But like I said, what made me talk about it was when I found out and I heard that Drink Champs interview. It was like, whoa, how could she do that? You know what I mean? How could she do that? You know what I mean? To somebody who was really trying to help her out and really work with her. And it wasn't, like I said, Tupac was trying to be with her on that level. It just wasn't. Like I said, he could have had any lady in there that he wanted that night. You know, it just happened. And like I said, it didn't happen like she said it happened, because she came to the hotel with the hoodie on. You know what I mean? She didn't go back to the hotel with Tupac after the studio session like she said she did. So she came back later, and Drew Down confirmed that. So we know it's all a lie. All of that's a lie, and we just know that Tupac was telling the truth when he did hit him up and everything else.
So for a while, man, you know, me and you've been talking, and you've been telling me that Tupac wasn't really signed to Death Row like everybody thinks he was. So with that being said, man, I want you, if you don't mind, man, just explain to my followers or whatever, you know, why you think Tupac wasn't really signed to Death Row.
Well, it's not what I think. It's actually what I know for a fact. And like I say, if people did their due diligence, a lot of people want to believe what they want to believe, I guess, because of the folklore of Death Row and people that weren't really around at that particular time. But when Tupac was in jail, he was in a desperate situation. And like I said, he was signed with Interscope, if you remember. So when they went to get Tupac out of jail, if you look at that, it wasn't a contract that he signed. That was like a deal memorandum, if you will. And it was deal points as to what would be included in a contract had he signed with Death Row, and they actually wrote up a contract, and that was supposed to be in it, and that was the language in the agreement. But the first thing that he had signed was, it was a letter to Interscope, basically explaining that David Kenner and Suge Knight would be respectively Tupac's lawyer, David Kenner and Suge Knight would be his manager, letting Interscope know this, right? Now, at that time, Tupac signed to Interscope. So first and foremost, you would need to void out the Interscope contract in order for Tupac to sign with Death Row. And so when you see and look at that contract, that's not what happened. So basically, it was a tentative agreement on what Death Row and Suge Knight was supposed to do. But first and foremost, it was ripe with a conflict of interest. And the conflict of interest is this. David Kenner was Suge Knight's lawyer, and David Kenner was also the lawyer for Death Row. And then he would now be acting as the lawyer for Tupac. So if there were anything to go on, how would anybody's rights, mainly Tupac's rights, be protected? They couldn't be. There was a conflict of interest. Who are you going to look out for? The label and the CEO? Or are you going to look out for the artist? And so that in itself should let people know that Tupac really wasn't signed to Death Row, because under the legal ethics, David Kenner couldn't represent Tupac or be his lawyer. You know, ethically, he couldn't do that, but it happened anyway. And so when Tupac gets out of jail, they were supposed to give him a contract, and Tupac was on Death Row for about, I would say 10 and a half, almost 11 months. And there was never a contract written up. So now, when Tupac dies, right, when he gets killed, and his mother, Afeni, rest her soul, before they were trying to release the Machiavelli album. And them trying to release the Machiavelli album, Afeni actually put a cease and desist order, basically saying that they couldn't release the album. And so who comes up and steps up to the table? Because at this particular time, Suge is in jail for the thing that happened in Vegas. You know what I mean? For the violation. So he's in jail. Nobody from Death Row stepped up to go and remedy the situation as far as, Tupac being signed to Death Row, because there was no contract. What could you do? There was no accounting. There was none of those things that normally would be in a contract where Tupac and his rights would be represented. So now, who steps up? Who steps up? I'm asking you. Do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay, Jimmy Iovine. So Jimmy Iovine steps up, right? Because basically, who is Death Row distributed by? Interscope. Who's the parent company of Interscope? Warner Brothers, right? And contrary to most people's, or should I say the prevailing notion that was out there, Suge Knight never bailed Tupac out of jail. Suge Knight didn't bail Tupac out of jail. Let it be known. And the fact of the matter is the bail situation in itself had three components, right? First off, not Warner Brothers, but Atlantic Records actually put up an $850,000 corporate guarantee that if anything went wrong, Tupac didn't show up for court, that they would be on the hook for that. Number two, Interscope put up $250,000, right? And number three, the bail bondsman company that bailed Tupac out, they put up a bail bonds of $300,000. And basically all of that went against Tupac's future royalties. Now, once again, I just told you that Tupac wasn't under death row. So why would Interscope and Atlantic Records put up almost $1 million to get Tupac out of jail? Because Tupac was signed to Interscope. And basically what they were doing was they were getting Tupac out of jail, but they couldn't do it because, number one, of the corporate structure. If you remember C. Dolores Tucker, she had bought some shares of Warner Brothers, went to the Warner Brothers meeting, basically was hollering about how Tupac and Death Row and, they calling women, all of these names and disrespecting black women in the community and the whole 9 yards. That's where that stemmed from. But see, most people don't understand that. So once again, Tupac wasn't signed to Death Row and Suge Knight didn't pay his bail. They used Suge Knight because Suge Knight, being the front guy and the CEO of Death Row, got to give him credit for having the idea, along with Tupac's then wife at that time, who Tupac told his wife to put the bug in Suge's ear because he was trying to get out of jail, being in that situation. You got to give him credit for thinking of that idea. But like I said, no, Suge didn't pay for the bail. And these are facts. Like I said, once again, if people do their due diligence, they would know that. So now you go to, why wouldn't Warner Brothers, why wouldn't Interscope bail them out? Because number one, they had just got in trouble with Warner Brothers because of C. Dolores Tucker. And remember, Interscope bought back their half that they sold to Warner Brothers for $150 million. Warner Brothers had bought half, but when they started complaining, Warner Brothers sold the other half back to Interscope. Furthermore, Warner Brothers had gave Death Row a publishing deal for $4 million. So even though that Warner Brothers didn't distribute Death Row records anymore, they still had a publishing deal. If you look on the back of All Eyes on Me, as well as any record that Death Row had put out that time, you'll see Warner Tamberlane Publishing. So they were still making money off of the deal based on the publishing side of things, but they weren't distributing the records no more. And the fact of the matter is that they wouldn't even bring out dog food from Daz and Corrupt from the Dog Pound. Priority released that record. So once again, like I said, and then you had Tupac mom, when she filed the cease and desist order, Jimmy Iovine stepped up and he paid her $3 million. But check this out. Afeni was so smart. What she did was, she said, well, you give me $3 million, and now what comes to light is, oh, but we still had Tupac signed to our Interscope agreement. But Afeni was like, well, no, that's not what my son signed when he got out of prison. You know what I mean? My son signed a deal, said that he's supposed to get an 18% royalty rate. They were still trying to go by the 12% royalty rate that Tupac was under when he was under his Interscope agreement. And Afeni was like, no, we're not going for that. That's not what he signed. So they were questioning the whole a deal memo in which it was, and any lawyer or person who's legally proficient in their right mind would know that. And basically they agreed to that. And they gave her what she wanted. And she got a few other things that she wanted. And that's why they were able to release the Machiavelli album. Facts.
So Tupac was never signed to Death Row. He was actually still signed to Interscope, and Suge Knight really didn't put up the money to bail Tupac out of prison. It was Interscope.
Absolutely. Yeah, but like I said, once again, it was Suge's idea. He gets the credit for that. You know what I mean? It was, and then, like I said, it was a brilliant idea. But once again, public relation-wise, corporate-wise, you couldn't have, and from the C. Dolores Tucker perspective, you couldn't have a multinational corporation bailing out Tupac Shakur for the charges that he was alleged to have committed.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good look.
That wouldn't be a good look from that perspective.
Because he was in there for pretty much sexual assault.
Yeah, but which wasn't true. And we're gonna get to that.
True, but what I'm saying
right.
is, Interscope bailing him out for that, that wouldn't be a good look for Interscope.
That wasn't a good. But now, if we put Suge Knight in the reputation that Death Row would supposedly have, these guys, these whatever.
It would be more fitting for him.
It would be more fitting, like, oh, and like I said, it worked for public relations, and it worked for record sales, as we seen, All Eyes on Me went to the moon. So like I said, no, Tupac wasn't legally signed to Death Row. You know what I mean? He was still signed to Interscope, and which, like I said, when you think about it, in hindsight, it was a brilliant move. It was a brilliant business move, like I said, once again. But like I said, and they never, like the fact of the matter is they never got around to actually giving Tupac a contract. You know what I mean? Because they couldn't. You couldn't give him a contract because, once again, the Interscope contract was never voided out. So, that's like you trying to sign me and I'm already signed to this company. I might not tell you, or you might not act like but at the end of the day, that company gonna come to me and be like, hold on, we got a contract. Furthermore, we've seen people get bought out of contracts, like Snoop. When Snoop went to No Limit, No Limit actually bought Snoop's contract from Death Row. And as Reggie Wright had told you, right? So basically, what confirms what I'm saying, so what did Death Row give to Interscope for Tupac to be signed to Death Row? Nothing exchanged hands. As we seen with the deal memo, there was nothing that exchanged hands. So that just basically lets you know that, once again, a lot of the corporate stuff and the business stuff that goes on in the music business. But no, Tupac wasn't signed to Death Row. He was signed to Interscope.
Man, I didn't know that, man. So Tupac wasn't officially signed to Death Row, man.
No. And this is one more thing, like I said, because the money was already coming through the channel of Interscope to Death Row. Like I said, Interscope distributed Death Row. So the money was already coming through the same channel. Interscope and Warner Brothers seen money before Death Row did. And like I said, they gave Death Row a publishing contract. The publishing side of Warner Brothers, $4 million publishing contract. So, it wasn't. And like I said, the crazy part is that Tupac tried to remedy that situation. He was on it. You know what I mean? He was on it. And I think when Dr. Dre left Death Row, that's what really put Tupac, that really woke him up, because Dre really left with nothing. It was like, hold on, like, what's really going on? And and then you have all of the other stuff that went into that. So,
speaking of the case in New York, man, in regards to Tupac and Ayanna Jackson, how you feel about that?
Well, first and foremost, when it comes to something that's important in dealing with women as that situation, I don't really want to deal with my feelings. I just want to deal with the facts. And the fact of the matter is first of all, Tupac was innocent. And if he never met Ayanna Jackson, Tupac would still be alive. And most people would say, well, you know, she wasn't in Vegas and all of those other things. But let me give you the ripple effect of what that is and what that means. First and foremost, Tupac, she had gave Tupac a massage on the said night, and that was admitted in court. And so when Tupac was charged, what they charged him with actually didn't happen. And so what the prosecutor did was, the prosecutor overcharged Tupac, which would then put the prosecution in a better position to basically force Tupac to take a plea agreement. And if anybody knew Tupac like I knew him, he wasn't the type of guy to cop a plea for something that he know he didn't do. You know, most people in that situation, for less time, they would cop a plea. And like I said, once again, the reason for that is they were already mad at the fact that Tupac had got off for shooting the 2 off-duty police officers down in Atlanta. Tupac could have jaywalked, littered, or loitered, and they were going to try to get him for something. So this was the right opportunity for them to now, get Tupac Shakur. And so, like I said, once they charged him, they gave him like 5 charges, knowing that he hadn't committed any charge based on the evidence. And once the DNA evidence came back and there was no DNA, they didn't even have intercourse that night. So there was no sexual assault to be had. But I'll go into the fact of this. So now Tupac has to be in New York at this day and time, or that day and time, should I say, to attend this trial. And you know, as well as I do, that everybody in their mama would know that he's in town because the media, once again, is talking about the trial of rap superstar Tupac, now beginning, the newspaper, the Daily News. And so people now know that you're in town because you have to be there, for this trial. And so if he doesn't meet Ayanna Jackson, he doesn't be charged. He wouldn't be charged for those trumped up charges to have to go to court for people to know that you're in town. You understand what I'm saying? So then by knowing that he's in town, he then now gets called or to the studio. And so if he's not there in New York for that, he doesn't get called to the studio. And therefore, he's not shot on that night for whatever reason. Robbery, mistaken identity, or whatever, thing you want to put on there. From his understanding, he felt like he was set up. So he doesn't get called there, if not for meeting her and being in New York to have to go there for that trial. Furthermore, now we don't have no bad boy beef. We don't have no beef between Biggie. We don't have no beef between Tupac. We don't have no beef between them at all. Because number one, he doesn't get shot. Right? So that kicked off that.
Right.
And now we have the tension, from him being there and being called to the studio, being shot, surviving, and now him making these accusations when he, like I said, his judgment is clouded. He just got shot, you know what I mean? And like I said, the only person that could know what he was feeling that time was him. You know what I mean? So therefore, there's no beef with Biggie now. There's no beef with Puffy. None of that ever transpires because everything was all good with them prior to that moment, right? And therefore, now, Tupac never goes to jail. Tupac never goes to jail, if not for meeting Ayanna Jackson. So if he doesn't go to jail, then Tupac what? He never signs the death row. So he never has to sign the death row or be bailed out by Interscope or Warner Brothers or anybody else that they had thought at that time. People thought it was Suge Knight, but like I said, we discussed in the early interview that didn't happen, and the truth about that. So he never gets bailed out. He never has to get bailed out to death row or anybody else at that particular time if he's not in jail for those trumped up charges. So now, Tupac never goes to Vegas. He never meets Faith Evans under the situation that he meets Faith Evans under at the Hollywood Athletic Club. It's a little bit more of a respectable thing now because there's no beef. Now this is Biggie's wife. And he doesn't come from the perspective or then realizes later on when he sees or they see, should I say, the opportunity to do whatever they did in that situation. You know what I mean? There's never a hit 'em up. He doesn't write hit 'em up. Not with those same incendiary lyrics that he wrote hit 'em up with. Because once again, therefore, there's never a beef. There's never that feeling of animosity or feeling of betrayal that he felt like at the time that he felt like Biggie had betrayed him with. You have none of that. Therefore, he never goes to Vegas. He never goes to a fight with Suge Knight, or he's never on death row because of the situation that it stemmed from and that ripple effect that now comes from those trumped up charges. Then, once again, he doesn't get in a fight with Orlando Anderson. Not under those terms. That never happens. You see what I'm saying? That same, because he's not on death row.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he's not under death row, so he doesn't meet Orlando Anderson under the same terms. I think probably if they met under any other situation, they'd probably be cool. You just never know. But under that situation, they never meet under those terms. Then, he's never riding in the car with Suge Knight that night, going to the club to be shot. Like I said. So at the end of the day, when you think about it, none of those things happen if not for meeting Ayanna Jackson. But then let me flip it for you. So, but then on the flip side, we would never have All Eyes on Me. We would never have Machiavelli. We would never have the movie Bullet or Gridlock or none of the other music that he recorded while he was under death row.
Yeah, man, we'll never have Bullet, Gridlock, gang related.
Yeah, we would have none of that. And so it was his destiny. That was his destiny. How much we like it or don't like it as his fans or people who love him or somebody like myself who knew him personally, we hung out. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to, record, with him and things like that. So, yeah, it was his destiny. So once you think about that in totality, if it wasn't for that night that he was introduced or met Ayanna Jackson, Tupac would be still alive. But like I said, on the flip side, we would have none of that great music and none of the great memories and things that we have, now that we can, just ponder on, for generations to come.
Yeah, man, that's that butterfly effect.
Absolutely.
So, Afeni, man, break that down, man. Afeni suing Suge Knight.
Well, like I said, I mentioned earlier in regards to the cease and desist order, but the crazy part about that is that it was all supposed to be this one big family, but it turned out to be nothing of the sort. And when Tupac died, Tupac was basically from the sale of All Eyes on Me. Tupac was owed for just the sales. He was owed $12 million, and all Tupac was owed $17 million because for every million that All Eyes on Me sold, Tupac was supposed to be advanced $1 million, right? So that 5 plus 12 is 17.
Right.
So when you deal with the numbers, but like I said once again, Tupac didn't have a contract with Death Row. There was no accounting clause, so there was really no intention on actually taking care of and doing the due diligence as a label would normally do for their artists, and it's been proven that even though Death Row came back with some kind of accounting in regards to $7 million that they attributed to Tupac in all his videos and things like that, a lot of the stuff wasn't expenditures, should I say, related to Tupac's budget. Like they had Michelet's Range Rover. You know what I mean? Her Range Rover was $51,000. That was covered by Tupac's budget. May rest in peace, brother Nate Dogg. His child support was paid for under Tupac's budget. And David Kenner, the lawyer, his Malibu mansion was paid for under Tupac's budget. So when you think about what Afeni did, being someone who was aware of the law, who had fought her own case when she was facing life in prison, being a Black Panther, she understood how the law worked. And so therefore, when her son died, she was prepared to defend his honor. Another thing, they had basically charged a RICO case, like a racketeering and running a criminal organization as far as death row, because nobody got paid. Basically, that was, basically what the lawsuit had stated. And when Tupac tried to get paid, he basically was trying to get an accounting. They would never account to him. They had basically done a deal with a manufacturing company, clothing manufacturing company, without Tupac's knowledge, a company called Globex. And his mother actually had to sue them, and they actually settled with his mother for like $500,000. Like I said, once again, there was no contract. So you could basically do whatever you wanted to do, or they could do whatever they wanted to do against Tupac, and he really had no recourse other than to take him to court. So now you say, well, now you understand why the house, the Rolls Royce, the Mercedes Benz, and all of that stuff wasn't in Tupac's name. He was basically being pacified so that he would never really understand, like they thought he wouldn't understand, what it was that needed to take place. So therefore, Tupac, once again being the intelligent guy that he was, he fired David Kenner, got his own lawyer, and at that particular time when they did the deal with that clothing company, Tupac was basically working on his own promotion deal with another clothing company, and he had a new lawyer for that. So, like I said, once again, when you just think about the whole entire situation involving the legal suit against Death Row, his mother was so on point, and I think that's just one point in his career, or in his after his death, should I say, and in his career, that I think a lot of people don't really focus on. Everybody wants to focus on the folklore, Death Row, and who was the hardest and who was this. But it's a business, and it's the music business. And like I said, Tupac wasn't getting what he was supposed to be getting. He got taken advantage of, basically. You know what I mean? He was in a situation where he needed them, and like I said, the people that were supposed to really be there for him, and people say, well, Suge bailed him out, but that he didn't bail him out on a buddy move or on a friend move. It was business. You know what I mean? And so, and like I said, once again, he didn't bail him out. That was another prevailing thing that most people don't understand. So when you get to the truth of the matter, I think that's something that people should know.
So they was really paying Nate Dogg child support with Tupac budget.
Well, yeah, it was one payment. But like I said, this all came up in the court case involving what they were trying to find out so that they could get an accounting and get Tupac's royalties paid to his mother. Like I said, it was a bunch of stuff, jewelry and stuff that they had bought, all of this stuff. It was a total of $7 million that was attributed to Tupac. They had, it was like $3 million in production costs and like $600,000 in studio costs that wasn't Tupac's.
And what's they using Tupac money or whatever for Miss Chalet as well?
Yeah. Like I said, the Range Rover, it was the Range Rover. It was another truck, Porsches. It was a whole bunch of cars. Like I said, it totaled up to $7 million. And like I said, for most people who don't really understand that or didn't have that or know this information, just go check it out. Like I said, this is not bad mouthing Suge or nobody like that. These are just simply, the facts that came up in the court case. You know what I mean? And actually, Afeni actually won that case, trying to protect her son's honor. Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's interesting, man. That's out of pocket, man. I mean, them using Tupac budget, using Tupac money or whatever for, Miss Chalet, car note, Nate Dogg, child support. Yeah, man, that's out of pocket, man.
Yeah, like I said, once again, I wouldn't even say out of pocket. I just think, it's unbusinesslike. You know what I mean? It's not doing good business. And so therefore, like I said, when Dr. Dre left Death Row, it was all downhill from there. Like the guy who actually started, who was the anchor, who was the guy who Death Row was basically built around. And then you go to, you know, Harry O actually giving money to actually start Death Row. I don't think Harry O would have donated money or should I say invested money in Death Row if it wasn't for Dr. Dre. And he even had his own case, you know, involving them not really honoring an agreement that he had signed with them or his representatives had signed with them. So, like I said, it was a prevailing thing. It's unfortunate, and like I said, it's good to know that that his mom, you know, basically handled that situation like a loving mom should. You know, I think that's very important for the historical facts of what needed to take place. She did that, and like I said, you know, may Finney rest in peace, Pac rest in peace, and yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, man, my guy, man, Delray, man. Thank you for coming back, my man.